from NWA? Also, I would like to pay special welcome to the members in the gallery. Mr. Anthony Davis, President of Citizens' Right to the City Association, and your members, sir. We welcome you, or persons from Charlie Mount Drive and Golden Triangle. Welcome you to this session of the Infrastructure and Development Committee meeting. We are here to deliberate on a few matters. Let me once again say that we do give thanks to the Almighty that we were spared for whatever reason. We are here today, and we will do our best to make sure that the business of the country is dealt with in a transparent and holistic way. Reading and confirmation of the minutes. The meeting held on November 30th, 2022. We do take it that members would have read through the minutes as it was circulated. Are there any matters arising? We ask that the minutes of the last meeting be confirmed. Confirmed by member Philip, seconded by member Lee. Matters arising from the minutes.
Chairman, just on the deliberations we had during the last meeting, and again, I'm going to raise the issue of if the chairman himself can explain the reasons why the chairman has taken the decision not to invite the team that wrote and sought response from the committee, from the Citizens' Rights Group. Why is it then, if we are going to have a deliberation and to discuss the submission, on why is it that the chairman sees it fit not to invite them to go through and to seek concerns? Because, Chairman, as I said in the previous meeting, the issues that they have raised are ones that they have brought to the committee itself, which is a subsection of the parliament itself, representing their communities on an issue which is one that is widely discussed and concerns given. You said at the last meeting that you invited the agencies to respond to their concerns, but I shall remind the chairman, and I saw the chairman refreshing his memory of the section 73cc of the standing orders, which gives the opportunity for community groups like theirs, for the committee to receive submissions from citizens and organizations, organizing meetings between the citizens, community groups, sectoral organizations, members of parliament. 63CBD gives the committee the benefit of organizing meetings with relevant organizations in order to seek such information on their activities and the public interest may demand. So I, Chairman, don't think that we're doing their submission justice. I don't think we're doing the committee any justice, and I would love to hear from you, Chairman, on the reasons why it is that we have sought this route without completing the deliberations with the team from the citizens' rights, without giving them a fair hearing within the committee itself, so that we can at least put that matter to close and make recommendations, if there are any to be made, to the Parliament itself.
Thank you, Member. Page 3 of the minutes, second to last paragraph. Member Phillips sought clarification on the reason for the absence of members of the citizens' right to the city at the meeting. The chairman indicated it would have been asked that the members of the group be invited to give their submission. The chairman indicated the group was invited at the last meeting as support to the public defender. He explained the submission was made and the request was made for the group to be invited to observe the proceedings. He stated that the submission made by the group for the committee's consideration was currently before the committee. Member Phillips stated that if the standing order permits the invitation of the group, then they should be invited to participate. At the meeting that the matter was presented to us, back then it was the meeting in January, the public defender made a submission. The submission was made. The public defender and members of the group did make a presentation to us. I am now saying that going further, it is for us to deliberate on the situation. I have no qualms, I have no problem with the Citizen Association sitting in and observing the proceeding, because it is now time for us to deliberate on the matter. They would have been given the permission, the privilege, when the submission was made by them, to put forward their situation, both in writing and in words. Now it is for us to deliberate, and we did invite them to come and to observe the situation going forward. That is the situation.
With all due respect, Chairman, that first meeting that you mentioned, I remember, if you look back at the minutes, I made a recommendation that it made no sense that we had that meeting at that point in time with just the public defender and the citizens' rights group, without having the agencies that are involved in the concern. You invited the agencies to the second meeting, which is the meeting that we're reading these minutes of. But we didn't invite back the citizens' rights group.
No, they were invited.
They were invited to be
an observer to the situation. Because their submission was already made.
Chairman, we're not in an argument.
I am happy that you know that we're not in an argument.
But I think that we are here at the behest of citizens of this country. The standing order gives them the opportunity not only to write, but to appear at the committee.
Which was never taken from them.
It has been taken from them.
They made their submission.
Chairman, we have not achieved nothing out of that concern, out of the concerns of the citizens' rights group and many other residents within the Kingston and St. Andrew metropolitan area who have a similar concern, by having the agencies come and give their position without having the citizens' rights group
questioning them.
It's not a matter of questioning them.
That's exactly where you're going, because the submission was made. They made.
So let me ask you a question.
Hold on, Chairman. Member, hold on.
Let me ask you a question. Hold on.
Member, hold on. You are going to get your time to ask question. The submission that was made to us outlined exactly what were the concerns of the citizens, right? Yes or no?
The what?
The submission that was made to us through the letter from CRC outlined exactly what the concerns were from them. Yes or no?
Yes.
Fine. Do we need them now to come and read it to us? I'm
It's not a
asking you a
matter of
question.
reading
No,
it.
I'm asking you a question. Yes or no?
Chairman, look, let me just state it for the Hansard. I think that we have done an injustice to the group itself. I think that if we have a document which is a government document where the order is not permanent yet, it has been there on the table for 5 years, but yet still the developmental order is being put into play. Citizens have a concern. It is the same way that in your constituency, that if citizens have a concern, you have the opportunity to come to the parliament to speak on behalf of the citizens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
But the citizens in this instance, in this committee, has the opportunity, because I would love the chairman to tell me what is it then that you think has been achieved, apart from you telling the KSAC and the other agencies that were here what you thought was the concern.
No, I didn't.
Right? What will come out of it?
No, I didn't.
Because as far as I'm concerned, it was a waste of a day.
No, I did not tell them what to expect or what to do.
I didn't say that you did.
But that's what you're saying. That's what you're implying.
I said what you thought were the concerns
from
the report, from the citizens' organization. Chairman, I am just saying it for the records.
Yeah,
I think that your actions have been unfair to the citizens who wrote that letter and who had concerns, by not giving them the opportunity to at least reappear at the committee, because that first meeting was prematurely ended, had prematurely ended, because we invited them alone without the agencies in which they had a concern about. So let me state it for the record, whatever your intentions are or why it is that you have denied them that right is unjust and unfair.
Anything else, Ms. Member?
Done.
Sure?
Yes.
Well, Chairman, I was just wondering, I've noticed that it's on the agenda to discuss the submission again. So is it that it was final that they would never be given an opportunity, or are we still ventilating the issues? And then at some point, then we can look into that. Because my understanding when I saw the agenda was that
Madam Member,
we
that's
would discuss
exactly,
it and then...
I ask that they observe the process right through.
Right.
And at any given time that we need to hear from them, would have requested them to come and make a presentation.
Right, because
we
that was
do not need, at this time, we need for the technocrats and the committee to deal with the matter as best as possible. And if we cannot come to, if we are at a stalemate, then we can always call back the city. But what I realize from the member is that there's some amount of grandstanding that is taking place.
Mr. Chairman, you owe me an apology.
No, I don't.
You owe me an apology.
I don't. If you look in the gallery, you'll see what is happening.
Mr. Chairman.
You just look up in the gallery.
That has nothing to do with me.
Yes, it has everything to do with what you're doing.
With what I'm doing?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you owe me an apology. You're out of order. Since it's grandstanding, you have your meeting by yourself.
No, I have other members too. And it will be stated.
All right, Chairman, so you have it on the agenda. I don't know if you want us to ventilate the matter then.
That's where we're headed. So now that the member has grandstand enough, we can now delve into the matter at hand, so we can look at the submission. A copy of the submission is before us. Are there any questions, concerns that we can look at? We also have the NWA with us here, who has some amount of authority in that instance.
Chairman, we're on the agenda, are we? Just for my purposes.
For Member Robinson, we took the submission received from the citizens' right.
And Chairman, are you My question on this would, I don't know what my colleague raised, but I would ask why the committee has decided or has made a decision not to invite the committee to the group to present to us, given that they have provided a submission and given that it's a normal parliamentary practice for groups who make submissions to be invited to present.
Sorry, page 3, second to last paragraph, in which the first submission that was made, the public defender made an appeal and she did ventilate at large. Also, members of the citizens group were given the chance to make a presentation, even though it was submitted to us in writing. And so, in only fear that I ask that the committee deliberate on the matter, and if there is any need to call or invite the group to come and give us any clarity on any matter that is in the gray area, then would have done so. Today's meeting would be for us to deliberate on the submission that is before us. And we did invite them in the same paragraph. It will indicate to you that they were invited to observe today's meeting.
I mean, there's a distinction between invited to observe and invited to present. My question really revolves around...
I don't see the need for them to present today. I am saying that we as committee will deliberate. If there is a gray area that we need clarification from the group, then we will either ask them to write to us or come to us to present the clarification to it. And I don't see anything hard in that.
As I have said to you, I disagree with the position that you have taken on the issue. And I believe, as is the norm in all cases where submissions are made to parliamentary committees, the group should be given an opportunity to
which they
present.
Were given the opportunity, member. And if you were at the meeting in January, you would have known when the public defender spoke, and I think 2 other persons spoke on the same day. That would be the first move in giving them a chance to present to us.
That matter was specific to Charlemont Drive. The issues that have been raised are broader than Charlemont. They deal with a number of communities which are experiencing similar issues. And I think it's important that we don't confuse the two things.
We are not.
There was a specific
It is not being
submission.
confused. When the public defender made her statement, she spoke of a wider grouping. She did speak of a wider grouping. And that's what is happening. But if we give ourselves enough time to deliberate on what is before us, and if any one member see the need to invite the group, CRC, to give a clarification or clarity on any matter, then we can also invite them to come back to us. But for now, we are going to deliberate on what is before us, and the members from the CRC will observe the matter to see if everything is as transparent as they would want it to be. The matter at hand is the submission from CRC. Member Robinson, are you in receipt of a copy?
I am, and I'm going through that as we speak.
Okay. Members, other members, are you in receipt? You're good. Okay. All right. We take a 2-minute and look through.
So, Chairman, if I start with, I'm on page 3, and I take the first issue that has been highlighted by the CRC group. The issue of increased housing densities in what were before single-family communities, where in the majority of the cases, these are taking place in breach of covenants, planning laws, regulations, and permits. What we have here is that in many of these cases, developers are building and start buildings before all these approvals take place. Residents, in most of these cases, only find out about the developments when equipment is moved or a place is fenced and hoarded and construction starts. In most cases, the relevant notices are not provided to residents to give them an opportunity, one, to find out what is being done, but also an opportunity to raise any objections that they may have. The issue here really is more that the state agencies that are charged to protect the rights of the residents have failed to do so. And this is an issue that has been highlighted by significant numbers of these groups across the board. So that is the first one that I believe the committee should deliberate on and seek a way to find a remedy to this problem, because it is pervasive, not just in the corporate area, but across the country.
Sorry, number 1 on page 3 has been highlighted by Member Robinson. He has read the submission number, bullet pointed, and so we are now asking ourselves, what are your thinking as to what transpired, and where we go from there? Member Robinson, you want to give your opinion on it?
Well, my view on it is that primarily the regulatory bodies here, which would be NEPA and KSAC, are not exercising the powers that they have to ensure that, one, if there are going to be changes to covenants, that the appropriate notice is provided so that people have an opportunity to raise objections, that if there are changes, that construction does not begin before those before changes are approved, because in many cases people start knowing they are in breach, but seek to rectify even after construction. And then the most difficult part is that in many cases, the only remedy that the individuals have or groups have is to take litigation themselves, which means a cost to them to hire lawyers at their cost, and they're up against developers who are deep-pocketed. So for me, the issue really here is that the agencies that should be safeguarding and ensuring that the laws, the covenants, regulations, and permits are observed are not doing so, to the detriment of many of the citizens.
And these two main bodies are NEPA and the KSAMC, right?
For the corporate area, and obviously for other areas, it would be the respective municipal council.
Sibyls, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Is the agency to which these questions should be raised to or can assist us, are they here today, Chair? Any of them?
They are not here today.
They are not here today. All right. I have a number of questions that I would like to ask, but they are not here, and I really, because based on the report, the page 2, I never even get to page 3. Page 2, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, outlined. And I just want to read it, Chair. Residents of single-family residential communities are not against increased densities. They have, for most part, coexisted well with two-story or three-story developments. The issue is that now they feel under siege from a proliferation of 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10-story residential units, blocking lights and airflow, straining physical infrastructure, roads, sewage, straining water supply, adding to traffic, noise, and air pollution, changing the character of the neighborhood. The push to acquire land for the current high-rise, high-density developments means that price of land, housing, and property taxes are even further beyond the reach of the majority of residents of the KSMA. This begs the question, what is the plan for retired citizens, residents of the city, and low-income or no-income young professionals just starting out? And I recall at the last meeting, Mr. Is it Peter Knight? He mentioned that there was a new coding that was coming or had signed off or something to that effect. I just want to know, is it the group mentioned about 5, 6, 7, 8 stories? Is it within the law that these developers are doing this development, the 5, 6, 7 story, and in doing so, have the authorities, the agencies, would they not have looked into some of these elements that the citizens are making mention? So I would really love to hear from them if these 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 stories were approved, and they were approved against what backdrop, against what the agency would have, the code would have been, and have the code taken into consideration these questions that the citizens are raising, and if so, how? You know, to explain it to us so that we can understand. Because I'm hearing the citizen and I'm hearing Mr. Knight the last time with the coding, but now that we have this report, I want to really hear from them. How is it impacting the not just the citizen, but how is it impacting the next 5, the next 10, the next 15 years in Jamaica? And if they bring to us a report that has been done by experts to say this is what we have gotten from experts, being that we have consulted, and the experts who are, and I said expert mean they must be qualified and competent and independent, I suppose, then we would examine those. We would examine those, and then having examined those reports with the citizen, then we can reconcile same. But I would want to get that thing come before us, Chair. And with regards to just to move, because I came in on the discussion. With regards to and I heard Member Robinson making the statement. I have no objection with any citizen association or individual coming before the Parliament, like all of us, I think. And I would welcome their views. But procedurally, I think it is okay to let us look at the report, get the reports from the agency. We need to get a written report from the agency. Having seen this report, we could ask the agencies to respond and assist us. And then, having both reports, then we could have the group, we could make a decision as a committee. I don't see us making, I'm personally against making decision outside of the committee meeting. And I have seen the emails, but I know that it's always best to make decision when we meet as a committee. Member Robinson, you know, in other committees we have this discussion as well, that it's always best to ventilate the different issue, and as a committee, then we make the decision. So that's my view, that we ask the agencies to respond to this report because they would not have gotten an opportunity to respond. And when they respond, then the report is sent to us, and then we can make a decision as to, I would love to hear from the group after the agency had the agency have been given the chance to respond, to hear their views. And then we, as parliamentarians, can write our report and get it to the Parliament. And the Parliament makes the decision for the next step. That's how I see it. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I'm in agreement with Member Sibley's and also Member Robinson as it relates to, of course, referring these issues to the agencies. I think that as a committee, we could, even though we have a submission, we could ensure that the questions going to these agencies, all agencies involved in the matter, the questions are also tabled for them. And so when we get the responses, it will be easier for us to deal with. And just as how we would have invited the National Works Agency here today to deliberate on other matters, we can then go forward and do that. And then at some point, as Member Sibley's alluded to as well, we would love to have the citizens' rights group here with us as well.
I just want to make one point, so that, and it's a statement of fact, not opinion. The CRC group has never been invited to the parliamentary committee. When the matter related to Parliament arose, there was a group from the Hope Pastures grouping that came and presented, and they raised certain issues related to the issues that the public defender had raised on Charlemont. The discussion went into some broader issues, and then we had to adjourn. But I just want the committee to note, CRC has never been invited for this specific issue, just so that we are clear on that.
Member Robinson, I'm clear on that. And even if they were here, I would still be interested. Being that they send a report.
Member Robinson, which group was here the last meeting, November 30th?
You mean when they sat here?
Yeah.
Physically here? To the when we
some members were in the
gallery.
No,
I'm not talking about the gallery. I'm talking about invited to sit and present. And I'm saying the only time, the only group that has been invited to sit and present,
right, was
is the group
the Golden
from
Triangle.
The Hope Pastures group.
And all we said at the last meeting was that the submission was made by CRC, and we accept the submission we are going to deliberate as a committee. And if needs be that we have to invite them to present something or to clarify something to us, then we'll do so. But I guess Member Philip had other ulterior motive.
No, and please, no, don't ascribe that. I could just deal with the facts. I just want...
That is a fact.
No, I don't want you to... I don't want you to ascribe motive to a member. I'm simply saying CRC has not been invited yet to present. They've been in the gallery.
But let us not jump the gun before we reach where we are supposed to be. Let us as a committee look at what was presented to us as we are doing now. We are going to formulate a document to send to both NEPA and KSA-MHC to give us answers to the questions and the concerns that you have raised, Member Sibley's have raised, Member Lee is alluding to. And so, at that point, we can say whether we need to have the resident or the members from CRC come in here to make a presentation. I do know that at the last meeting, Mr. Knight from NEPA and Mr. Hill from the Kingston and St. Andrew did answer some question in relation to the whole matter. I remember clearly on that, because it is in the minutes. But let us not jump the gun.
So let me just ask procedurally then. Given that, I mean, since you want to refer this document to KSAC and NEPA, is there any point in us going through this document now, given that we only have...
Yes, there is a point, because I need to hear if you as a member of this committee has a concern other than what is here.
Okay, all right, all right, so I dealt with number one, all right? Let me go to number two. I'm on page 3, the issue of infrastructure planning. So the reality that we have to face is that most of the growth in housing is taking place, well, let me qualify it. A lot of the growth in housing is taking place in a concentrated area in the corporate area. A lot of it in my own constituency, because it encompasses places like New Kingston, and people want to be close to, quote unquote, the financial center of the city. That growth by necessity, because of the limited land space, that growth is moving up, right? So what is happening in communities that were traditionally single-family homes, maybe 1 or 2 stories, is that to accommodate that growth, you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-story buildings. Once you put in a 10-story building in a community, it changes the complexion of the community, all right? And we have seen where, and in the cases I know, the developers have gotten permission.
Have gotten?
Have, yes. Okay. I can tell in one part of my constituency, they have. Now, once one developer gets permission to go 10 stories and a precedent has been established, it means other developers can. And again, that has taken place. If I describe the Braemar-Musgrave Avenue corridor, there are about 3 developments which are high-rise developments. Within that context, you have to bear in mind the existing infrastructure, for example, of water and sewage. Now, in most cases, certainly for sewage, the developers have to conform to Water Commission guidelines and ensure that they connect to the main sewage main. You can't do the soak away for those large developments. But the concerns residents have are the adequacy of water, particularly to supply high-rise buildings, and adequacy here meaning you already have challenges with developments that are 2, 3 stories for persons being able to get adequate water supply on the upper floors. The planning around traffic, because when you take a single-family home and it becomes a multiple apartment, you might be dealing with a move from 1 or 2 cars for that piece of land to 50 or 100 cars for that piece of land, and ensuring that the appropriate planning around traffic, etc., is put in place to manage that. So item 2 is really ensuring that there is complete and holistic planning that is taking place, and ensuring that as those plans take place, that you ensure there is still enough what I call green space to facilitate children who need to play outdoors, recreation space, etc., which is a big issue in terms of quality of life for many residents. So the concern here is that there isn't, the residents, and I share the concern, that there isn't enough planning around all of the issues to accommodate the level of development taking place. Meaning the development is running way ahead of the planning that currently exists. And that we're going to get to a stage, probably 10 years, maybe not even 10, where there's a lot of concrete around the place, very little green space, more traffic congestion, air quality becomes worse because there are no trees, and people who have to live in that area, their quality of life reduces. Those are the concerns in item 2, and that's why town planning, NEPA, KSAC are critical to addressing this particular issue.
So, member, I just a sidebar with the clerk. I'm going to ask all members your concerns, your questions, that you just note them for clarity and pass them to him so that he can draft the document to send to the relevant authority. That okay with you?
I mean, I would still, since we are here, I mean, it's not a, I don't plan to go through every single thing, but I would want to just highlight.
Go ahead.
The issue of this is a big issue of the provisional order.
Same page 3?
Yeah, item number 3, this provisional order. And the provisional order provides what the residents have said here, a loophole, because it is provisional, right? And that loophole has allowed developers to go to increase heights and densities beyond what the order would be if it was permanent, right? And so one of the recommendations is that the provisional order should be amended and the force of the law, and given the force of law, so that they can actually hold developers to account. Right now they can't, because the order still remains provisional. That's a very big issue that the residents feel very strongly about, and which I want to highlight.
So that need to speed up.
Yeah. And I want to also, going back to number 2, mention the issue of water flow and how rainwater runoff has changed in the last maybe 5 years or so. I've been member of parliament from 2011. And again, I can only speak about my constituency. When you convert a single-family home into townhouses or apartments, and you block the natural flow of water, and there's a lot of natural flow beyond the drains that are built by NWA, the water has to find somewhere to go. And what we have seen late last year, when we had a couple weeks of heavy rain, is that places that were not prone to flooding have become flood prone. And I'm talking about individual houses, and I'm talking about, we know of one case of the new NHT development on Ruthven Road, which really was caused by storm water that was running off. And the issue here is not that you have blocked drains, but part of the issue with the infrastructure is that the infrastructure has not, the development of the infrastructure and the expansion of the infrastructure has not kept a pace with the physical development. So the drains that are in the corporate area would, by and large, and Mr. Hunter can probably tell me specifically, would have been built probably 30, 40 years ago, or even more, 60 years ago. When you have the if we have a couple hours of heavy rainfall, the drains can't accommodate the kind of water that comes down. And as such, the water gets diverted somewhere. That diversion ends up in people's homes, apartments, etc., which creates tremendous damage and loss. So this issue has become a big issue for a number of residents in my constituency because of the level of development taking place, and the development has, in some cases, blocked natural waterways, and as such, water will find a way to get out to some endpoint. And that is a major concern that has to be addressed. So I wanted to highlight that issue as well. And then if I turn over to page 4, a big concern relates to the lack of responsiveness of the agencies when complaints are made. This has been a sore point for a lot of the both residents and the groupings. People write, people call, their correspondence are not acknowledged, no action is taken, and this is, I would say, principally for NEPA and KSAMC. I know KSAMC has indicated that they have introduced some new procedures so that they can respond in a more timely fashion. But it is still a major issue that, having raised concerns, in many cases there's no acknowledgement of the concerns that are raised, and the issue that is highlighted, if it is, for example, a development taking place, things just continue and run apace. And the only way any corrective action is taken is if the residents on their own decide to go to court at their expense, which some of them have. And we have seen rulings in their favor. But it really should not be that the agencies that are designed to protect residents, that they don't respond in a timely fashion. And that is a big issue that the grouping has as well.
You're looking at number 4.
Well, I raised number 4 as well, the issue of
Okay.
the traffic congestion, noise and air pollution. I had raised that as already.
So, in the submission, in bold letters or writing words, the CRC would have made mention. We expect the National Work Agency, that's you, Mr. Hunter, and team, to design, fund, construct, operate, and maintain roads as a safe and convenient facility for people of all ages and ability traveling by foot, bicycle, automobile, public transportation, and commercial vehicle. We need a collaborative, progressive, and inclusive approach that involves citizens in the planning. It's state number 5, lack of responsiveness of state agencies, in particular NWA, NEPA, KSAMC, to written communication from citizens. Citizens are tired of writing to the relevant state agencies, bringing to their attention breaches in planning laws and regulation, expressing concern about pending infrastructure development, such as erection of concrete medians in residential areas. There is little to no communication and consultation on permits granted, on appropriation of properties for road widening, highway construction, and about the impact of all these on community life and well-being. Relevant agencies need to account for their lack of consultation with citizens of areas designated for wide-scale increase in density, major roadway, etc. It says action requested of the Infrastructure and Physical Development Committee of Parliament. In light of the foregoing, we call on the committee to take the following action. A, per the standing order mandate of the committee to organize, and it reads section 73cc. We call on the committee to convene public hearing, listening tours on the effects of current high-density housing development, road widening works and concrete medians and breaches of zones, regulations on community life and well-being. And it goes back, it made mention of 75C subsection D, organizing meeting with relevant. We call on the committee to invite NEPA, NWA, NWC, KSA, MC to give account to the committee and provide supporting data on the following: breaches occurring in the housing development arena and their action to enforce the existing relevant laws, regulation, and permits. Their convening of their requirement of other relevant actors to convene broad-based community consultations about infrastructure development plans, application for permits, and permits approved. Their enforcement of the limits of provisional permits pending court approval or application for change of restrictive covenants. Their action as state agents to ensure developers comply with decisions of the court with respect to development which they, the agency, granted permits for but fail to enforce and regulations. On written compliance and other submission they have received from citizens on matters to do with infrastructure and physical development. Their written response to the citizens and action they have taken towards remediation redress. On the report of specially convened advisory committee of NEPA on heights and density. This committee report entitled KSAMA Heights and Density Report, dated 6th of the 7th, 2019, made recommendations which the Infrastructure and Physical Development Committee should seek to be advised of. We call on the committee to make recommendation to the full House of Parliament to establish a joint select committee to receive public submission on the 2017 Provisional Development Order, introduce a development order bill based on recommendations for amendments to the provisional order and to receive public submissions on the bill, pass a development bill into law.
Chairman, let me
and
just,
at the back of the document, it would say participating communities and citizen associations. So this would engulf the different groups that are part of the CRC. So in other words, my colleague before, I take it that he did not read the back section of this report, because if he had done so, I don't think what he did earlier would find favor, because the residents themselves made clear exactly what they are seeking of us. And so we are only here today to go through it, deliberate on it, create our own questions and concerns, send off to those various entities.
Chairman, let me just say.
And and to make sure that they appear before us to answer other concerns that on the day that they're giving the report, we would find questions popping up again. And so, I will now hear from you, Member Robinson.
Yeah, the last time when we met and we had KSAC and NEPA, they were in fact responding to a number of the concerns which were expressed. Yes, yeah, man, they were.
Your memory is now coming
No, no, I'm saying they were. I mean, because
No, I just want it to be stated. It should be stated in the minutes and in Hansard, so we can go back, because my colleague before said we want Hansard to state it and to record it. So I'm now asking that it be done just the same.
No, I wasn't here when my colleagues spoke.
I know, I'm just
so,
telling you.
No, but I'm saying when they came, they were, I mean, Mr. Knight spent a long time talking about there were a number of issues related to, yeah, so I'm saying I don't know if there's going to be value in sending them this again. You're going to send them again? Okay.
Value that it's going to produce is the fact that this document is coming from CRC and they want the answers. So we are going to make sure that all the questions that they seek from this document will be answered in writing and verbally to us for the CRC to see and to hear and to receive.
So in relation to the final set of recommendations on page 5, item C, the recommendation about the Joint Select Committee on the Provisional Development Order, those 3 recommendations. What is the view of the committee on those recommendations?
For me, I can't, Chair, I can't make any decision on those until we would have heard from
the
entities, NWA, NEPA, Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, National Water Commission, before we can move to adopting or amending any of the recommendations or rejecting any of the recommendations that the CRC has put forward. I think it would be premature. So I would not be able to make any decision. And that is why I said from the beginning that I would really love to get the responses from the agencies, including those areas that you have expanded, because I really never hear anything new from what this comprehensive report that the CRC has put together, right? And I would really love to hear the agencies on these, right? There are some questions that I note that are not for the agency, but those questions that is for us, the committee, I would await the agencies before I deliberate on my own views on those questions.
All right, so, Chairman, procedurally, you're going to send, the clerk will send this submission to the agencies, seek a written response, and then we reconvene to go through the responses that we get from the agencies. That's what we're saying.
Also to have the agencies present on the day.
Yes, to present, and you would also invite the group in to present as well.
To observe.
To observe? Why would you invite them to observe versus present? In the same way, if you bring the agencies, you bring them. It's their submission.
No, they will get their time then in the meeting.
Chair, I would love to.
Member Civils. Member Lawrence.
Yes, I'm in total agreement, Chair, to hear the views, talk to the agencies, listen to them before we make any decision. And,
okay.
Yeah, and to top up that, we can only come to a good conclusion if we listen to them first. With the grouping, I believe if they come and sit and listen before they present, I think it will be much better for both us and them.
All right, member.
I'm not going to go procedurally to hear from the CRC because I think we have ventilated it somewhat. But I would really want to hear, after the agency would have submitted their report, I would really want to hear the citizens, whether they elect somebody to speak on their behalf, right? I really want to hear from them. When they are in receipt, as us, the responses from the agencies to hear their views as well, because that will help to inform us most certainly as to where we go, because I think it's very, very important that we look at it in a fulsome way, in a fulsome way. I hope it will not be a matter where persons are grandstanding, not from us, not from the agency, not from the citizen association, the group, because we are not going to reach anywhere, right? We honestly really want to get to a position where when we get here, we are really looking at Jamaica first, okay? We are looking at Jamaica first, and that is what is required of us.
Member Lee?
Yes, Chairman.
Last person.
Yes, I'm in agreement that, as Member Sibley's suggested, that we, of course, get the feedback from the agencies first, and then, of course, we would want to hear from the citizens group as well after that. So we would have both ends and both sides of a story per se, and then it is easier for us to have more information, and so we can make better decisions and know better where to go, which step to take after that. So I am in agreement with that, and because their report and their submission is so fulsome in that it even has action items and direct questions, I think the various entities should not have an issue giving us some responding. And I really do appreciate the fact too, Chairman, that you have mentioned to us as committee members that if there are any additional questions that we should place them to the clerk so that they too can be sent to the agencies.
So members, we have spent 1 hour and 8 minutes on this matter. We are now going to do what is necessary. Please jot down your questions and concerns, pass them to the clerk. So we give you a day or two to do that before I will instruct him to send off the document. So it gives you enough time. Also, if there are other members that will ask if they have a concern too, because the document was sent to the entire membership. And so they too can do the necessaries and pass to the clerk so that we can do a wholesome document and send to the various agencies. We will now move down the agenda. Report on the Junction Road update, National Work Agency.
All right. Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. Here with us today, we have Ms. Monique Gibbs, Senior Director, Strategic Planning, Mrs. Janet Coleman-Howlett, Senior Director, Works Policy. They're from the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. We also have from the National Works Agency, Mr. E.G. Hunter, and along with him, who is the CEO, of course, and along with him we have Mr. Varden Downer, Director of Projects and Implementation. I am yours truly, Yannick Watson, Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Chairman, before we move to the presentation, I'd just like to state that in the meeting of January 11th, 2022, the next day the Observer stated at the 12th that the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation was not present at that the committee meeting that was held on that date. And I just want to say that that is erroneous, as I was here representing the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Thank you.
You should write to the Observer and tell them.
I did that.
Oh, you did that.
There was no response.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, committee members. On behalf of my team, let me first take this opportunity to wish for everyone all the best for 2023 and to hope that our respective fortunes will improve in the year ahead. We're here with the ministry, and just for comprehension, how it works, if everything is fine, the ministry gets the credit. If it doesn't go well, I take the blame. But that's a fair, fair arrangement. Okay, so let me address the first item on the agenda, Chairman, members. And again, for clarity and accuracy, I wish for the following to be noted. There are actually 2 contracts in that section. And I don't know whether it's because of, well, laziness or a decision to be economical in writing, but in the public press, there's no distinction between the 2. And so, but from a contractual and a scope point of view, there are 2 separate contracts. So I want to deal with them separately. So first and foremost, there was the TRAV contract. TRAV is the acronym for Toms River to Agwalta Vale, Phase 1. That contract started at the roundabout, for those of you who know St. Mary, the roundabout at Agwalta Vale, and it concludes at Broadgate. So that was contract number 1 awarded to Surrey, and that contract is substantially complete and has been complete for some time. And based on the material that we had given previously, you can see the various pictorials which show the expanse of that contract and the fact that that contract is substantially complete and has been in use for in excess of a year. The second contract relates to what we call the Chovy Breakaway. Now,
Mr. Hunter, can I just ask you for clarification?
Sure.
On page 8, I see the sum of works related to Chovy, 321 million US.
No, Jamaica.
No, but your thing say US.
Oh, wow.
I figured it was Jamaican, but just correct it so that somebody in the media don't go.
Right.
Yeah, in the second to.
Yeah, it's correct.
Is Jamaican.
Okay. Okay. Jamaican. Okay, so Chairman, members. Again, I'm from St. Mary. I'm from Highgate, so I know the parish very well. And those of us who have traveled on the North Coast Highway, segment 3, which is from Old Church to Port Antonio, knows that there are at least 3 breakaways on the highway. Younger heads, one breakaway is in Whitehall. And I've been advised that there were about 3 attempts to fix that. Eventually we just gave up. So when you are going along that way, you drive through a plantation and you come back out on the road. Within engineering parlance, it can be fixed, but it's going to be tremendously expensive. There's another breakaway outside of Port Maria, just as you pass the Casa Maria Hotel going around that side. There's another breakaway. And there's a third breakaway. I can't remember the exact location. The point is, St. Mary is known for very unstable soil. One of the dominant soil type in St. Mary is the Richmond clay. And to the extent that that soil type exists, it poses severe challenges for civil engineering work. So this is not something that is not known. Now, it so happens that once the TRAV contract was let, the Chovy breakaway occurred. And so the decision was taken because the original contract was already tendered and awarded when the breakaway occurred. So the decision was taken to address that main contract first and then to come back and do Chovy, which is what we're now doing. So the works which are now being undertaken relates specifically and only to the Chovy breakaway. In terms of magnitude, the total travel contract from Agualta Vale to Broadgate is 4.8 kilometers. The section affected by the Chovy breakaway is 160 meters, so it's 3%. Regrettably, as I said before, in terms of public commentary, that 3% area tends to define the entire corridor. So factually, we just want to set that record straight. Okay, the technical solution for the Chovy breakaway, without getting too technical, involves the construction of 7 diamonds down in the river, slope stabilization from the diamonds down to the river itself with geotextile material, top off by rock revetment, and then from the diamonds up to the road area, again, slope stabilization and rock revetment. Now, all of these works were preceded by significant soil examination. And in fact, the soil test that we have done shows that there are 3 or 4 different soil types in that one location. And the engineering design to address that had to be rather detailed and complex, because as you go through the different strata of the soil, it changed. And so the engineering design changed to reflect that reality. We think the design that we settled on, and which we are now implementing, will stand up and give a lasting solution to that problem. It's difficult work. The fact that it's concentrated in a relatively small area perhaps doesn't give the true picture of how difficult the job is. But nonetheless, we think that we have passed the most challenging aspect of this project. The diamonds are now completed. We've sent around some pictures. The diamonds are now completed. The slope stabilization, are now completed. So there are concrete things, and then you have rocks and stuff inside. Yeah, and that's to hold the hillside. And they're equipped with drains to allow for subsurface water drainage. What remains now is just to do the above ground walls, and then the road will be reconstructed. This is the easy part that remains. Our projection is for these works to be completed at the end of April. Now, I am on record as saying that we should have completed these works some months ago. Regrettably, I have, at this late stage in my career, discovered that I am only as good as the contractors who work for me. So to the extent that they do good work, it helps me. To the extent that they have challenges, it reflects badly on me. So I take the blame for that. It is a matter of public record that the contractor to whom the contract was originally awarded had severe difficulties. And we had the option of either terminating the contract or assisting him in the contractual management for it to be completed. We took the decision to do the latter, because terminating a contract involves a whole lot of things. So he has brought in a subcontractor, and that subcontractor is nursing along. We're holding his hands and we are pushing, and I think we should be able to have substantial completion by the end of April, as we have said.
Can I ask for clarification? I don't normally take things from the media, but there was a recent editorial which suggested that the project was almost going to be abandoned, and that there was going to be scoping out of a new road from Stony Hill to Junction. I read it, as I say, I'm not taking it as gospel, but that was in an editorial. So I would ask you if you can comment on that.
I'm sure we all here have had our challenges with the press. I've long since known that one should never criticize the press because they always have the last word, regrettably. But I've had experiences where, I've done a presentation, I've handed out a copy of the presentation, yet when it's reported, there's some difference. Just to put it in context, I haven't read the editorial, but the Prime Minister at a ceremony in Port Maria on the weekend posited that perhaps one of the things that the government will have to look at is an alternate route for the junction. And that was informed largely because of two things. One, the soil type that I mentioned is, pervasive in that corridor. And if you're going to the Junction Road as it now exists was a donkey track that has been paved over. If we're going to build the Junction Road as a road, one, it has to incorporate safety features in terms of curvature. You can't have these sharp corners. It has to have camber so that the water runs off. It has to have adequate drainage. It has to have retaining walls. So it would be a significant expenditure to convert the now existing paved donkey track into a road. Because one of the things that we have since learned, the population, the public doesn't want us to do any half thing. They say better you don't do it than you do half thing. It's been our experience that if you touch a corridor, they want the perfect solution. And that perfect solution is going to be tremendously expensive given the terrain and the physical nature of that corridor. The other thing, if you look at it, one of the outstanding attractions of the Junction corridor is the ambience. It's pretty from an environmental point of view. There are little waterfalls, there are a lot of trees, there are a lot of greens. If you look at what we had to do in the Broadgate area to achieve the stabilization of the hillside, a lot of cuts, environmental scar, and when you think about it, can you imagine having that all the way from Broadgate to Cooper's Hill? That's a major issue. So there is a rethink of the approach, and what the Prime Minister said is that perhaps one of the outcomes of that approach is that, listen, you may very well have to chart a different course, but that's posited for discussion and further examination. I read the article, I read the speech, and there was no pronouncement that it is going to be abandoned and rescope or whatever. That's conjecture posited by the author of the editorial, not by any agent of the state as far as I'm concerned. Okay? So that's on the junction. One last thing I would suggest, because this is an infrastructure meeting, because we engineers tend to be more comfortable on the ground, hard hats and hard boots, it may be useful for the committee to consider looking at some of these things, where we're in our comfort zone more than here. So in a way, I'm offering an invitation to the committee at its leisure to come and see some of what we're doing, for greater comprehension. And
well, it's not at our leisure, but really a working day.
Beg your pardon?
I say it's not at our leisure. It's a working day, so we have to come dressed for the occasion.
And we will provide the transportation.
All right, we'll take you up on that offer. Yes. Member Robinson.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to do so. I would take a tour of parts of my own constituency where I would love NWA's intervention, and then we can go to St. Mary. Then we can go to St. Mary.
I don't know. I don't know your boundaries. I don't know your geographical boundaries.
I will show you my boundaries. All right.
But I don't think any of the bullet points here are reflecting anything in Kingston and St. Andrew to be. So, but we definitely will look at members. We will round robin the idea and see how best, because yes, we would really like to get a first hand. It's a seeing is believing.
Yes.
And so we really want to take Member Robinson out there to see, because I don't think he has gone to St. Mary for the longest a while.
Absolutely not.
I don't see any picture in the Gleaner or Observer or on the news of him being out there. But
thank you, Chairman. Okay, so on to the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. Again, very quickly, just so you have a head space concept of the South Coast. Back in, I think, 2000, and this would have been 2012-13, Government of Jamaica, with funding assistance from the IDB, undertook a feasibility.
sorry, Mr. Hunter, I want you to take into consideration in answering also the concern, because we have not been out there, but we have heard, we have seen it on the news where residents are complaining, quarreling, even demonstrating about the time and the road surface and all of that. So in answering it,
I'll address that. Okay, so as I said, the government undertook this feasibility study for the South Coast Highway, and on this side of the country, it would run from Harborview, one extreme, to Port Antonio in the next. And it was a completely new alignment, pulling the road away from the towns and the sea for obvious reasons. It allowed the coastal towns to be able now to grow inland, and it protected the road from the ravages of sea level rise. So that was a broad concept behind it. Once that was designed, the government then secured a loan for, I think, $384 million to construct the first leg of the first component of the eastern part, and that would have been from Harborview to Morant Bay along the new alignment. And that was the original intention. When the administration changed, the now government examined that proposal and made changes to what was to be done. And those changes basically said, from Harborview to Yallas, we will do it along the new alignment, typical highway with Jersey Bar down the middle, but we wouldn't go to Morant Bay with this. We would stop at Yallas for the new design. And from Yallas to Port Antonio, we would do improvement to the existing alignment, largely with safety in mind and to assist the ease of passage. So that was what is to be done on that side of the island. And the remainder of the funds would be used to extend the east-west toll road from Maypen to Williamsfield. So that was a Government of Jamaica decision, and we are implementing it. And as the Prime Minister has said here, one of the consequences of going back to the existing alignment is that we're working where people are. We are in the towns, whereas the original concept was that this highway would be built, in virgin territory where only mongoose and birds would be upset. But from Yallas to Port Antonio, we're on the existing alignment. Okay, so that is one. The second thing is that, again, one of the traditional ways of doing road works in Jamaica is that the NWA or whoever has money to do roads would go and build a road. And then there's the common criticism that having built the road, my colleagues from the Water Commission will come back and dig it up. Okay. Now, I do have a little knowledge of that business, so I've said to people that the NWC doesn't get up in the morning, stretch and say, which new road should I go and dig? No. They dig because of certain reasons. And it's simple. What it is that the water infrastructure is old. And when you go to build a road with heavy equipment on top of an old infrastructure, the leak is going to manifest. If it manifests during construction, you can fix it. Generally, it manifests 6 months after, a year after. And that is why. So, one of the decisions that the government has taken based on a joint presentation that the NWC and myself did to Cabinet in 2016 was that, listen, anytime we're going to do any road work, it must include water supply. We're not going to go into any corridor to do just road. And the government accepted that. The other thing we got the government to accept as well is with the emergence of broadband and internet and so on, we also include ducts for fiber optic cable in every road work that we are doing, every corridor. Now, those are the good things, the attributes of doing good design, because you hear a lot of people talking about planning and so on and so forth. Planning is not an esoteric concept. You sit down and you say, this is desirable, and then you say, can I afford this? And then you make decisions based on the resource available. So the corridors now will have water, sewage where required, fiber optic cable, and drainage, full component. What that means, Mr. Chairman, members, is that you're talking about radical change in the original design. Because remember, the original design was just for road. Once you decide you're going to put in water and sewage, it's a completely different project. And the impact on the public is magnified because you're doing all these things. So for example, the water supply component requires long lengths of pipeline to be laid. That's how water pipes are laid efficiently. You don't lay one length and then you cover up. You have to lay long lengths, and you can't even cover it up significantly because you then have to pressure test it. And when you do a pressure test, if it fails, you want to see where the failure occurs. So that is why you can't reinstate the trench in any significant way. And after you pressure test and it passed, then you can reinstate the trench. Then you have to go and what we call flush and sterilize before you can put it into use. Now, while you're doing all of this, people are going about their normal business, and they are using the existing service, because you lay a new water pipe, but the population is still using the old water pipe. So you have to be able to lay the new while you still have the old one in service. Okay? So that has proven a bit of a challenge to us, and it does have a negative impact on the population. If you want to go about your business and you have all of these trenches and pipes and so on and so forth. Then in terms of road construction, the public relates to paving. When you start paving, they say, yes, we're building a road. But long before you get to paving, you have to do the underground works. So the ducts, the trenches for the fiber, the trenches for the pipes, trenches for the sewage, the retaining walls, the sidewall, the drains, all of that has to go in first before you get to paving. So paving is the last thing. But the public only relates to paving. So we understand the frustration and the anxiety of the public when they don't see a road being built. But the road comes, shortly thereafter. Okay, so finally, in terms of organization of the project, the government took a decision in the very beginning that certain elements of this project will be done by local subcontractors and certain elements will be done by the main contractor, who are the Chinese. And that was an executive decision for obvious reasons. As a professional, obviously, I would have had my preference. We all want to look good, so you would go with whoever is going to make you look the best. But it's an executive decision that these 15 packages will be done by local subcontractors. So we went through the process of selecting the local subcontractors. In retrospect, and well, part of the learning experience is that contractors who work in the water supply industry don't work in the road industry. A contractor who works for Petrojam doesn't work for NWC. I mean, that's the whole business goes. So contractors tend to specialize. So one of the challenges that we have had is where you award a roadworks contract, as we did, and then you add water to it. That contractor now has two responsibilities. He has the road and he has the water supply and the sewage. And to the extent that he can join with a subcontractor who is an expert at water supply is the extent to which it may go better. But it's his choice. Some of them choose to do everything themselves. So there's a learning curve effect. And again, we had to work through that. Suffice it to say that the element from Harborview to Yallahs is being done by China Harbor itself. And that segment has been going very well. It's significant, and I think the narrative that we have given out indicates the level of it's 87% complete and on schedule for completion in March of this year. So from Harborview to Yallahs, brand new highway, you'll have Jersey Bar down the middle. In fact, some of it is already in use. So that's going well. The 10 other packages have been let in various locations. And the report that we have shown indicates that some of them are 87% complete, 52% overall. 52 overall, but different stages depending on the particular package. So the first 5 packages which we let, those will be completed by March of this year. We let another 5 packages, and those are scheduled for completion in July. So come July, 10 of the 15 packages will be completed, meaning road, water, everything will be in place. There are 5 more packages to be let. And we have learned, the lessons that we have learned on the first 10 packages, we will carry those for the final package, meaning the contract obligates the government to see to it that CHET utilizes local subcontractors. But we will now have a better idea of who those local subcontractors ought to be for the other 5 package. So, just based on performance, don't know, that's the first thing. The second thing is that we have learned is that the initial 10 packages, the lengths that each subcontractor had was long, a couple kilometers, 14 kilometers, 18 kilometers. We've come to the position that to award such long packages doesn't really help our case. It's better we award smaller packages so that in terms of disturbance to the public, the work area is much less than it was before. Yeah, and more manageable. So we think that the final 5 packages will go very well. And we are confident that come March, end of March, the first 5 packages will be completed. And we will be able to complete the other 5 packages by July. Just to highlight, Chairman.
Could I just interject here? The concerns seem to be less. Yes, there are concerns about the contractors, but there are a number of concerns about the seemingly either absence or poor project management. Right? Yeah.
What does that mean?
Meaning the coordination between the different contractors who were working, the attempt to...
Could I just address that very well, just so we have it?
All right.
Okay, so each subcontractor works in a discrete area. So there's no need for subcontractor 1 to liaise with subcontractor too, because they're in discrete areas. In fact, some of them are in St. Thomas, some of them are in Portland. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and again, you know, one has to be very cautious in terms of some of the public pronouncement. I've seen an article in the papers that says somebody eating the money because they don't see any road. Yeah, and it was in one of the papers with big headline, suggesting that, you know, there's some skullduggery. When in truth and in fact, what was happening at that stage is that drains were being built and retaining walls were being built. The public, as I said before, only recognize road construction when paving is done. Anything before that is an annoyance. And it is in the nature of the business. You don't go out there day one and start paving. That is the last thing you do. It's the last thing.
Mr. Hunter.
Yes, sir.
That's not the issue I address. I mean, as somebody who drove on the road, the question marks really were, and I did the full length to go to Morant Bay, and
I have to.
It was the most painful thing. And frankly, until the people demonstrated and went on bad, the corrective measures were not taken until then. The issue about project management is not about whether contractor A lies with contractor B, but where, as you rightly said, you're doing drainage, you're doing retaining wall, etc. For significant parts of the road was in a position that was not what I call not drivable. So the issue of project management comes in the sense of, was that the best way to manage the entire stretch, given that you are coexisting with people who live there, with people who have businesses there, with people who still have to drive on the road. That is where project management come in. And whether that approach that was taken was the wisest approach, which I hope lessons have been learned from.
Understand, but the problem you have identified is a problem that we identified as well. But the cause for that problem, I posit in, is not because of planning or coordination. And it has been solved by what I'm about to tell you. Okay, so as I said before, the contract obligates the main contractor to sublet the 15 local packages. Yeah? Under contract, notwithstanding the fact that a subcontract exists, the main contractor is still contractually responsible for the performance of the subcontractor. Now, and because I'm the engineer on the project, and if there's a dispute, I have to adjudicate on the dispute. I have to be cautious not to say anything that would prejudice any future adjudication. Suffice it to say, though, Member Robinson, ordinarily you would allow a subcontractor to do what he has contracted to do. But then you get to a point where if the result is not to the client's liking, the client steps in, and the client would read the right act to not the subcontractor, but as I did, to the main contractor. And you say to the main contractor, I don't care what are the problems being experienced by whomever, the government's contract is with you, and you should do whatever is required to make good. And there are reams of correspondence testifying to those edicts, and there are reams of minutes of meetings testifying to that. I can say with certainty that the main contractor has taken over an appreciable amount of the work that was prior to the responsibility of subcontractors. And that is not to be interpreted as any commentary on the proficiency of a subcontractor. The point I'm making is that contractually, the government looks to the main contractor to deliver the goods. And if the goods are not being delivered, you go to the main contractor, which is what we've done. And that process continues as recent as yesterday, package by package, where the main contractor has examined what it is. He has received our complaints, and the main contractor has, as is his right, has stepped in to make good where the deficiency is. So the improvement that you have seen is as a consequence of those deliberations.
And I hope those improvements were not triggered simply because of the action people were forced to take. I would tell you personally, when I had to drive there, I told the people I would participate in the blocking of the road because what existed, and I just went there once, but for people to endure that on a daily basis, the disruption to them business, the dust, the this, the that, I would almost say it was inhumane, those conditions.
So Member Robinson, remember I said there were 10 packages were let, okay? I too drove from Kingston to Morant Bay in the first week in December, yeah? And I saw what you saw. I also drove Cedar Valley, Morant Bay to Cedar Valley. Did you do that? I would invite you to do that.
Because no, where I was going, I didn't reach Cedar Valley.
Okay, so the point I'm trying to make is that regrettably, the experience on one package tends to color the perception on all 10 packages, right? Which is rather unfortunate. But I'm saying, as a matter of fact, I drove Kingston to Morant Bay and I saw that. I also drove Morant Bay to Cedar Valley, 14.7 kilometers, and it's perfect, done by Alcar. Perfectly done, to the point where I was able to say, listen, the terms and conditions of this package is exactly the same terms and conditions as the others. And if this one subcontractor can do so excellently, then whatever. So we are, you know, there's a saying in life that wouldn't we all like to be judged in our best moment? Regrettably, we are not judged based on the Cedar Valley package. We are judged on the Morant Bay package, but that leads to, and that's understandable. The packages in Portland are doing very well. You know, Minister Vaz is out there, and you know he's constantly on the phone. Those are doing fairly well. And if you look at the percentage completion, you'll see that there are different levels of performance of the different subcontractors. But I take your point that to the extent that anyone and everyone is dissatisfied with a particular package, you know, we take that to heart and we move to get that done. But we think that we're over that issue now. Okay, so those are the packages which have been let. Now, what remains, as I said, 5 other packages remain to be let. We think that we should be able to award those. We will be best advised to select from the subcontractors who have performed best in the first 10, because we know have that experience, and yeah, we think that we will have a good project at the end of it all. Difficult, Chairman. Let me again make the point. As you well know, the land acquisition is a component of this project. And in an ideal world, I mean, people talk about planning. Of course, it would have been nice if we were able to acquire all the required lands before we start. But again, you know, life is never that kind to us. Land acquisition starts when the construction starts. JPS Kapul relocation also starts when the project starts. So we're trying, there are a lot of moving parts to projects like these. So there's land acquisition, relocation of the people who occupy the land that you are acquiring. And as you know, if the owner of the land is the occupier, life is easy. But if the owner of the land lives in England and the occupier is the cousin, then it's a totally different process to go through to go on the land. So land acquisition, utilities relocation, those are two big issues. Fortunately, in the new public investment apparatus that the Ministry of Finance is promoting, there is provision for project preparation, which allows for us to be able to do some of the things that we couldn't do before construction starts. So that's my report, Chairman, members. If there are any additional technical questions, my technical guru, Mr. Downer, sitting here, will handle.
Members, are there any other questions, concerns on the South Coast? Whilst you're at it, and you're here, Mr. Hunter, maybe there is none on the South Coast, because we do understand the challenges that it brings with what is happening around here. Is there anything that can be said on the Maypen to Frankfield?
They are 85% complete, and they are March is their deadline as well. So they're okay. You know, one of the beauties about the highways that, as I said before, when you're doing a highway project, only mongoose and mosquito you have to contend with. Yeah, where do you, when you're doing a project on Constant Spring Road or Hagley Park Road or Morant Bay, you deal with people going to work and coming home, and it's the challenges are enormous in that regard. But they're doing okay, and you know, they should be well.
The perimeter road for Montego Bay.
Okay, again, that's an NROC.
I don't want to take you off guard, you know, but I know
okay.
you would have some information you can give us.
Okay. That's an NROC project, as you know, and so I'm constrained in terms of what comment I can make. But I do know that they've mobilized. Mr. Watson, Yannick, the Montego Bay perimeter road, you wanna?
Yes, well, the land acquisition is taking place, and just to ensure that, you know, we follow all policies and proper protocol. So it's moving ahead, and everything is in place.
As Mr. Watson mentioned, land acquisition, this has been my recommendation to government. Remember, I said there is a design for the highway to be completed going all the way from Harborview to Port Antonio on the new alignment. So one of the things that the government will need to do is to identify the land that will be required for that and to start that acquisition process early for two reasons. One, so that people don't build any permanent structures on those lands. And secondly, so that when you get to the construction, you're able to move speedy. Because right now, every time we go to construction, that's the same time we're doing land acquisition. So the government is working on that.
One last matter. In Montego Bay, the resurfacing of section of the roadway, dual carriage from Long Hill into around Fairview, Alice Lemire. I noticed that works have been done. They were done at night, which is acceptable. But have your team gone out to do any inspection? As a layman myself, I don't think it is of my opinion and other members of Montego Bay that the work was not done up to standard, and so we want NWA to make sure that inspections are carried out.
Okay, so let me answer that. Well, for the record, the NWA is ISO 1900 certified, which means that we take quality very serious. Now, how it works is that a contractor does not get paid unless certain tests. And again, I would like to share, the next time I'm here, I'm going to share with the committee the documentation and the different tests that accompany what we call a taking over certificate. I mean, the sieve analysis, the, you know, I'm not a technical person in that area specifically, but it's a voluminous number of tests that are done on these jobs. And unless they pass these different tests, the contractor doesn't get paid. What happens is that we will issue an instruction to the contractor to make good, and he has a certain time in which to make good. Notwithstanding, we will look into that. I thought, Chairman, you were going to ask about the elegant corridor, because you would have seen in the papers where after 6 years we have concluded our negotiation with JPSCO, and Cabinet has signed off on the transfer of the street lighting infrastructure along the elegant corridor as well as the Bogue Road. And so the rehabilitation of those corridors will start soon.
As you mentioned, the elegant corridor, I only hope that the median, the paint, the road marking paint that is used to demarcate the median, you know, you paint the walls, that it is going to be of such standard that we can identify it at nights, even after 6 months or so. One of the problems that we have now is that I don't know what happened to it, but as there is water on the roadway, you know, it splashed, and you are unable to tell where in the road the median is at night.
So the material is actually thermoplastic imported from the UK. That's what they use as well. Dirt is a big problem. But, you know, we look at it because it's strange, you know, Chairman, I listened to the report previously about medians and so on. We have gotten a request from Montego Bay for the median to be constructed on the elegant corridor. Because one of the enduring benefits of the medians, they absolutely eliminate the possibility of head-on collision. And to the extent that the priority is on safety and reducing fatalities, you have to make certain decisions and certain choices. And we, you know, Mr. Downer and I were in Montego Bay the middle of December, met with concerned citizens, and the request has come in, listen, we want a median on that stretch. There are just too many accidents happen where people jump.
Vehicles going across what is there now to create fatality.
Absolutely. So,
but also that we find a way, because we have motorists that are supposed to be held responsible, and must be held responsible for the actions. And one other thing I find is that nothing is wrong with the lights. It's really the motorists who cut them down and leave them right there.
Yeah.
And so we must find a way, Sir Hunter, to bring them to books so that they pay for what they damage.
So what it is that previously the concept was that you have to be out there to see who is involved in this accident. Now, with technology, cameras, which we've also discussed with the interest in Montego Bay, with cameras along these locations, if there's an accident at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know who it is.
Yeah, but most times the police are aware of the situation because a police report is needed for insurance, so they have to report.
Right.
And many of the accidents in that area, general area, the vehicle don't get to drive away.
Yeah,
It has to be taken away by a wrecker. Yeah. But also the cat eye, the reflectors in the roadway. Yes. You put them down today, and within a week or so, they're gone because whatever is used to hold them in the road is not doing the work.
We look at it.
So, all right. So,
okay, sir.
I will accept the argument of the ISOP argument, and so that you will make sure that the investigation and the checks being made, because you can clearly see the unevenness as it relates to the runoff from what was there. So I'll leave that up so we get a report at the next
and
month
if you
or
agree
two from now.
if you agree to visit member Robinson's constituency before we go to St. Mary, we can also visit
We can
constituency.
visit member Robinson constituency.
We can visit your constituency after we leave
Well,
St. Mary.
I just spoke about mine because the highway and Howard Cook and Alice Elmer form part of my constituency. So I see it every day. So thanks for coming.
We don't have anything against.
Sorry.
We don't have anything against Clarendon or St. Anne, but
Clarendon is getting a fair share, man. We're going there to see the mongoose and birds.
Yes.
Member Sills, go ahead.
Yes, Chair. Since you mentioned Clarendon, just since you mentioned Clarendon, it is dawned on me to ask Mr. Hunter for an update with regards to the breakaways from the last rain that we had.
You had asked for some signs.
I want to thank you for the sign that came about a month ago.
Right.
I am grateful. I'm really grateful. And prior to the signs, you did something also to get some drums. And I think that was really commendable. And I am grateful. But, you know, the citizenry been asking, when is it that we are going to get something happen there?
Okay, so as you know, each constituency has been earmarked 40 million for
Mr. Hunter. Mr. Hunter.
For certain,
Mr.
for
Hunter,
certain immediate works.
let me probably put my question in a much better context. I am aware, based on what you told us the last time, that this is from the emergency funds, and that the work had started in relation to getting the scoping and so on. And the last time, just to assist your memory a bit, because I notice you go to the same barber like myself, that you had said that it can take up to 6 months to my alarm at the last time when I thought it was emergency. So I don't know. I mean, emergency for engineers is different from emergency from a normal citizen, right? So can you shed some light, not on the 40 million or in a 20 million or in a 10 million, but can you shed some light on the breakaways we're talking about in the parish of Clarendon, because we were told that it's all the breakaways in the parish of Clarendon. So I just really want to get an update for the people of Clarendon Northern. They ask me every week about it, and I think they deserve an answer.
Okay, so Mr. Sibbins, Member Sibbins, let me thank you for refreshing my memory. At my advanced age, I sometimes forget a few things. But yes, we have completed the design and our QS people looking at the costing. Okay, so the process for something like that, the engineers have to go out and do the field work. Then they come back and they do the design. And when they do the designs have to be checked by other persons for quality purposes. Then once they sign off on the design, it goes to a QS department and they pick up the quantities and do the pricing. While all of that is going on, I am lobbying for money. And as you know, Minister Warmington has something to do with you know, how we manage our outlay. So for the new financial year starting, practically, I'm not going to commit to any physical works before the start of the new financial year, because the procurement is going to take us, you know, 2 months. But it is now, we're almost at the end of January, then there's February and March. I can say with a high degree of confidence that you should see some physical work in the early part of the new financial year. But we are aware, and I don't know if you have heard that our people have been out there, but they have been, and we can share with you at your leisure where we are in terms of the design and so on.
Yeah. And when you say early part, because I now realize that early for engineer and early part and early part in the new financial year, we start the 1st of April. And I'm saying that loudly, so if there's any dispute with that, you will say, no, that is not what you meant. But the new financial year starts the 1st of April. Right. So when you say the early part, are you saying...
The first quarter.
The first quarter.
Yes, first quarter.
Okay.
Yes.
And the first quarter is April, May, June.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So within that.
Within that time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Yes.
Member Lee.
Yes, Mr. Hunter, I know you said that you have no troubles in St. Ann. But I'm very thankful for the assistance so far from the National Works Agency. I think I would say 80% of the time the agency has been responsive, even though the procurement process, I believe, is a little slow. I know Minister Warmington had assured me that there are some improvements in the procurement process. And with the Runaway Bay to Brownstown leg, I know it went for procurement, and I'm wondering how long would we have to wait? Give you an example. As you should know, the surface is just finished.
I know.
We did some patching approximately a month ago, 2 months ago, and already we have some major potholes springing up right now in Runaway Bay, heading right up. So, you know, and of course, the 40 million from OPM has already been allocated. So I'm just going to kindly ask if we can get another routine patching for that road.
Allocate for OPM? Okay, so let me say two things.
The ministry.
Let me say two very quick things. Roads and patching and potholes coming back. You see, unless drainage is addressed, there will always be a recurring problem with most of our roads, because most of our roads don't have drainage. But drainage is going to eat up half the money. Drainage is expensive. And so when we have 10 million to spend or 8 million, we're not going to touch drainage. And that's just our reality. In terms of the procurement process, I happen to know a little bit about it. I am one of the commissioners at the PPC. What it is, and I've advised some MPs, if you are clever in selecting your project scope and the amount, then you can move at a certain speed. Because what the law says is that up to 10 million, we can use limited tender, and the law doesn't prescribe how long it should be out there before it comes back. So literally, it can be out there for a day. Up to 20 million, you can still use limited tender. If it's over 20 million, generally we go to open tender, and the law for open tender, the law specifies 21 days wait time before it comes back. So, you know, I've advised MPs that, listen, if you're going to choose a $60 million project, that has to go to cabinet. And that is a year and whatever. So selecting your project size has a lot to do with the procurement speed. But, you know, if there's a particular issue, you can always call me and I can work through it.
Well, particularly I was asking about the Runaway Bay to Brownstown in terms of how far along are we, given that we would have patched the roads approximately a month and a half ago, and the potholes are now popping up again. And to the point we're up to yesterday, actually got a call, a lady almost got hit at her house gate because, of course, the bus drivers are swinging away from the potholes now. So it's very bad. Outside of that, an example was the allocation received for year before December, as in December 2021. I would have allocated a portion for a road in Orange Hill. And that procurement process took almost a year. The road was just completed in December. So it almost took a year. We were told that we could have actually, and that was $7 million approximately. Right,
That's
and
an
that
aberration.
procurement took almost
That's-
9 months or more.
that's an
because we were
aberration.
told in only October that, you know, process has been completed, they're now waiting on the insurance, and so the project could have been
Okay,
started.
so people who interact with me a lot know that the only thing I do is answer the phone, right? And so I say to, you know, MP, anybody, if you have any issue you have, you call me. These guys do the work, I answer the phone. So if there is a particular issue and you don't think that you're getting the right response, don't hesitate, call me. Brownstone, you do know I have connections in Brownstone, interest in Brownstone, so I have an interest in making sure that Brownstone is looked after.
That's not for the record.
So that means that the runaway bay to Brownstone Road.
All right, Member Lee, you get all that you wanted. Real connection. Member Lawrence.
I just want to ask, sir, without going around in many words, if you have any update about the road from Withorn to Darliston in terms of...
Oh, yeah. That went to cabinet. The road to that went to cabinet. Yeah, it was in two sections. I
yes,
remember.
2 sections.
Yeah, in 2 sections, right.
To Highgate and Highgate
Right,
to Darliston.
okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
those contracts, no,
That will
remember,
be going to cabinet soon, very soon.
because those 2 contracts
Very
are in
soon.
excess of $100 million.
Yes.
If you look at the average elapsed time for any contract that has to go to cabinet, cabinet is the end of the process. But the entire process to get it there, they're averaging 9 months. So, you know, that's part and parcel of the process. But the procurement people, the procurement machinery for the country, not NWA, is looking at how that can be speeded up. Some new rules are being worked on now.
Committee Member Lawrence, it is with us in the ministry, and it will be going off to cabinet very, very, very soon.
Because
Thank
when
you.
we finish it and it goes to PPC, then PPC sends it to the ministry, and the ministry then does its thing. So,
Yes. The next question. What is the real turnaround time for after you scope a road for patching? What is the real turnaround time before the patching actually takes place?
okay, so as I said before, depending on the value of the contract, yeah, the time it takes to award the contract varies, okay? Once the contract has been awarded, and here's the process, we send an award letter to the contractor to say, you have been successful in this bid, please bring in your insurance. If it's a big contract, we'll ask for insurance and bond, but if it's not big, we only ask for insurance. Mr. Lawrence,
Yes, sir.
do you know how many contractors have problems in getting their insurance?
Well, I hear it's
A lot. A lot.
Yes.
Because for you to get the insurance, you have to have collateral. So the first contract they get, they put up their house. The second contract, they put up their neighbor's house. And then after the third contract, there's nothing to put up. So we have had a lot of issues with the contracting fraternity being able to get insurance. Now, what some of the bigger companies are doing now is like an omnibus insurance thing. So they'll take out insurance for the whole year, but the bigger guys do that. Some of the smaller guys don't do that. But because we are not going to unleash a contractor in the public domain without insurance. I go to jail for that. So insurance is an issue.
Yeah. Well, we are having serious challenges in Westmoreland Eastern because after you scope a road there, and we have relatively medium rainfall yearly, by the time we get around to the patching and the amount that was scoped,
If you need more, yeah.
you
yeah.
just barely touch, and you don't really get no real impact because the road is still bad.
Yeah.
Because you scope all the potholes then, but by the time you reach around to the patching, it doubles. So you only do half, and half still remain.
And there's no drainage on any of those roads. I mean, I drive through going to through the Cane Piece and so on, and I mean,
I'm more back in the hills, Darliston, Betheltown.
Okay.
But we have some severe drain problem. A lot of them are
But
clogged.
Mr. Lawrence, call me. I mean, and I I am committing to address your individual concern as they go along. Call me anytime.
Sir.
Call me anytime.
Thank you, sir. I will.
Yeah, don't hesitate.
One last thing before you go, Sir Hunter. Christmas program.
Yes, sir.
Why on God's earth that all 63 of us are asked to send in your program as early as possible, and you follow the instructions?
Which they didn't.
The work is being done, and nothing happens before the last day before Christmas, when you would have been taken and drawn over the coal by the people.
So Mr. Chairman, you know, it's one of the commitments I made to the staff at the NWA is that they would not be there on Christmas Eve night trying to do payments, okay? We have come a long way. I remember the days when, during Christmas, there were 3,000 people in the yard looking Christmas work. We have been able to get them out of the yard, so there's nobody in the yard, and the payment thing. Now, once the Christmas program is announced, there's a spreadsheet with all the MPs, all the things, drain cleaning, clean up, whatever, and I get a daily report as to when the MP submits his program. And I pass that on to Minister Warmington, and I've asked him to speak with individual MPs to say, where is your program? I have that spreadsheet. I know when every single MP submitted their program. Now, submitting the program is one thing. The other thing, too, remember, there is no special procurement regime for Christmas work. I can go to jail just the same way for Christmas work as I would for any other contract, yeah? Because there's no special procurement regime. The same thing. So again, things like the bushing and the drain cleaning component can be done easily because, you know, direct contracting. But if you're going to do patching, that requires tendering, analysis of tenders. Remember, the PM says every time he announces...
Sorry, Sir Hunter.
Yeah.
When I say the Christmas program,
Yeah.
I'm really not speaking about the patching work or the resheeting of a road. Christmas program is really bushing and drain
You just talk
cleaning.
about the bushing and the drain cleaning component. Okay, fine. Yeah. But, Mr. Chair, the final thing I will say is that I can look back at the program to see, because I have the spreadsheet with the information. The other thing now, having given out the work or whatever, you remember the PM always says the Integrity Commission has been written to shadow this thing and monitoring. One of the things I have to ensure is that before 1 cent is paid, that we have the evidence that the work has been done satisfactorily.
And so you ask before and after pictures.
Before and after pictures, right.
But what my concern, which most of my colleagues share, is that all of that has been done. Your staff, your officers would come out a week or two before and realize, say, yes, the work has been done. Them take them after pictures, them send them in. But it's on the day, the last day, the Friday before Saturday, or the Tuesday before Wednesday, that everybody have to run to the bank, and then you hear that boy, reach the account yet. And
But you do know that the banks are having a problem in December.
Wait, Mr. Hunter. I must confess, Chair, that this year I have seen an improvement from my constituency, and I want to put it on the record because I don't want to beat upon the people in my parish who they really made an effort with me to not let me wait until the Christmas Eve for people to come call me, because I'm not usually necessarily, I'm not a part of the process, but I get the call like you. But this year, even though we got it in the week, it was much improvement. So I think for Clarendon, I think we got it. We got it kind of right by working as a team this year, and I'm hoping that we can improve on it.
Yes, absolutely.
We want to improve on it because we really thought, Chairman, that it would have been like the week before, But I must confess, the contractors and so on were equally to be blamed. That's why
it's not really the home staff. It's not the parish staff that causes the problem. Really, it's in-house accounting and them. I just bring in information as I get it from the people.
All blame comes to me. I take it. But again, I always say to MPs and whoever, if there's an issue, call me, and then I look into it and we try and solve it. Thank you. Okay, sir?
Yes. So, thank you again, Sir Hunter and your team, Mr. Watson and your team. Thanks for coming and present to us and be with us. I took the chance of having the deliberation on the submission from CRH first so that I would have company for you to listen through and see and hear from resident Justice Sim. I did that deliberately so you know what we are here for, to represent the people. And so it is that we do appreciate the time you spent with us. We hope that the next time that you're here, we won't spend that length of a time, 2 hours and 18 minutes to be exact. And so we appreciate your coming.
On behalf of the team chairman, members, I thank you for giving us a listening ear and the courtesies that you have extended to us. I really appreciate it. Lots of times we go places and people treat us as though we are enemies of the state. We'd like to believe that we are pillars of the state, not enemies of the state. So we appreciate the courtesies.
And at this time, you so wish, you can take your leave. No, it's any other business. If there's no other business, this Sybil's. We'll round robin the next meeting day.
Remember, gambling is just a game. Choose to gamble responsibly. Set a